Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, here's a very interesting and I think very important story, particularly for Muslims living in countries that are not majority Muslim countries. Now, the city of Cape Town has confirmed that noise pollution complaints or noise nuisance complaints will not apply to places of worship, but only those places of worship that have the appropriate zoning. Now, this comes after the city updated its standard operating procedure on noise-related complaints. Now, Cape Town Mayor Gordon Hill Lewis has committed to reassure the religious community that community disputes will be resolved amicably. Now, the standard operating procedure or the SOP has been published on the city's website, and religious leaders have been invited to assist in its implementation. Now, second Deputy President at the Muslim Judicial Council in Cape Town, Shaykh Riad Fataar, is my guest on the issue, and he joins me now. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
الأقبال أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. Wa iyaakum, alayna wa alaykum. Sheikh Riyad, we'd like to congratulate you, your family, and the Ummah in Cape Town for the month of Ramadan coming to an end, inshallah. Tomorrow will be Eid
آمين
al-Fitr.
آمين بارك
And
الله فيكم حبيبي
we
حياكم الله.
wish you everything of the best for Eid, inshallah.
آمين يا رب آمين يا رب.
Jazakallah.
جميعنا يا مولانا. Allah Ta'ala
Ameen.
grant all of the Ummah, and especially in South Africa, we have lots of work to do. We have lots of assistance and help to give integration to make sure Allah Ta'ala grant us success and all of that. The month of Ramadan has surely been a madrasa for all of us, tazkiyatun nafs, cleansing of the soul and so on, so that we can tackle the next 11 months, inshallah ta'ala. Allah grant that we see the next Ramadan. Amin ya Rabbil Alameen.
Very important dua there, Maulana. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Riyad.
Barakallah.
This story with regards to the Adhan in Cape Town, it has come and it's gone. It started in 2019. It became a political hot potato between the various political parties. But as Muslims who live in Cape Town, what has been the history with regards the Adhan on the loudspeaker? The history of the Adhan of the loudspeaker in the city of Cape Town, or for Muslims who live in Cape Town, what has it been? Because we've been hearing about this recently. It's coming into the news. Obviously, the politicians are arguing and all that, but we're going to leave that out for now. But generally speaking, the history of the masajid in Cape Town and Adhan.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Maulana Luqman and respected listeners, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us this perfect deen that shows us how to integrate with people. وَتَعَاوُنَ عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوُنُ عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Work and cooperate, that will bring piety and that will bring goodness, and the Muslimin, generally we are that kind of people that loves to cooperate, and it is because of that cooperation that from the establishment of Masajid in Cape Town, Masajid have become part of the communities. In actual fact, while I was the imam at one masjid, one person came to me and said, we had a problem with the sound at the time. And the one person came and said, you guys are not waking me for work. I was late for the whole week. It's part of my life. And so other people have come and they've become Muslim, and asked them, why did you become Muslim? They said, because that beautiful adhan that I hear every time, I can't resist it. So the adhan is part of the fabric, not only of the Muslim community, but also that of the non-Muslim community, and not just Cape Town, in South Africa and the world, where we find old communities. Many communities have been there all the years and so on. They've existed and coexisted together. They went to school together. They were on the soccer field together. These were people that the adhan is this part of their life. In actual fact, in Cape Town and where I am from, if the adhan went off, then the Christian people said, I'm going to tell your mother, your father, you not go to the masjid, or whatever the case may be. So this is the thing with the adhan, and so strange that you ask a question like that. I have had a UCT student that came to me and he said he has a thesis where he says sounds of Cape Town, And for him, the adhan is part of that sounds of Cape Town. So
mashallah.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, because the adhan has been around all the time, when we had these issues and the politicians, like you said, and everybody stepped in and wanted to help, the one thing that stood out was because of that ta'awun بين الإسلام or بين المسلم والمسيحي, a Christian, that cooperation between the Muslim and the Christian people came out and said, no, you can't complain about this adhan. This
Mhm.
adhan is part of us and things like that. But Maulana Luqman and respected listeners, there are times when we make a mistake and it's a bit too loud. Then that is
Right.
what we told the city. That is what we
Mm.
told the people around us. We are not going to be arrogant and just say, look, you must just accept and finish and cry. We will go with whatever decibels is there because we live in a country with other people.
Right.
And we had one situation at a masjid in an area called Bayview, in the Stanfontein area. And it was quite, everybody was upset. The Christian community, alhamdulillah, stood with the masjid and so on. And when we went out there, the imam saw that, okay, the speakers is in the direction of this lady's house. Let's turn the speakers the other way. It was turned the other way, and alhamdulillah, finishes the problem. So,
Mashallah.
as Muslims, while we have this kind of interaction, whether it be on a political basis, where we should be, and that is that the DA is the government of the day in the Western Cape. We have a councillor Nagavashi that wallahi was so nice when he dealt with us, nothing arrogant, nothing, always accommodating. With him was a Maulana Aslam Kasim. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, again, once we deal and we interact with these people and we make them understand where we come from, then you'll be amazed the kind of cooperation that you
Mhm.
will get. There is one important thing that you've mentioned that you read from our statement, and that is appropriate zoning. So
Right.
therefore, we encourage masajid, let's do the compliance issues, have your governance in place, and make sure that your masjid is registered. The zoning is there, and Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. You know, Maulana,
Right.
Cape Town and South Africa as a whole is a very religious community,
Okay.
and we should be the first people to protect places of worship.
Right.
Whether that place of worship is that of a masjid, that of a Christian person, that of a Hindu, or whoever, Jewish, whatever there is, because this is the way that we have ourselves as a community in South Africa. And because of that religiousness, we must be at the forefront to protect places of worship. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we see that similar kind of thing coming from others. The other thing that I wanted to say was that the Muslim Judicial Council is committed to help, inshallah ta'ala, where if there's issues coming up about the adhan or somebody is complaining something, come and contact us so that we can make use of the people that is around us. We've already had two masajid in areas just out of Cape Town, a different municipality. We've spoken to the guys of our municipality and they said, halas, inshallah, we can help and we can
Mhm.
explain and things like that. So once we have this kind of opportunity, then we must make use of it. And we deal with
Absolutely.
people, yani ala al-birri wa taqwa, you know? Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely. Sheikh Riyad, I just want to find out from from your point of view and from your experience. I mean, we all know that the adhan is from the sha'air of Islam, meaning those attributes of Islam that are almost, like second nature. We cannot divorce them from Islam. When we have situations where, for example, the community that the masjid is in is not very uh, disposed to hearing the adhan, and they like I could even go so far as to say that they want adhan to be actually stopped. What advice, according to the SOP that has been given by the city of Cape Town, what is the best way forward? Because you do get
Well,
those that are hostile, and you get those that are, like you say, understanding, but you get those that are hostile.
No, the hostile is there. Hostile is there. Yes. Malana, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. In terms of the SOP, there is now not a person, and because it is no longer registered as noise nuisance, there is no longer an officer that can come in a rude manner and say, put off this adhan, you are against the law, nothing. There is now a procedure in place. There is now certain things to take into account. He needs to come and check on whether the decibels and things. So therefore, it's a much more decent approach. So
Right.
when we come to a point where a masjid is in compliant with whatever the city requires of laws and bylaws, then the city has committed to tell the complainant, sorry, your complaint is not valid, not in terms of our bylaws and things. And again, I say, Malana, even if that bylaws, that complainant, if we can do something in turning the speakers the other way and see if we can accommodate them, inshallah ta'ala, then we will do that. Then we will
Mm.
do that. But where we are compliant in terms of the bylaws of whichever municipality, then the other communities must respect that we have complied and we have the right to bring that around, to bring that adhan as a Muslim community.
Mashallah. Well, and I think what you are describing here, it seems like it's the culmination of of some engagement, some lobbying, and some understanding between the Muslim, constituents, and of course between the people who are ruling the city. But
Alhamdulillah.
what I'm also interested to find out is, are you surprised to how this issue sometimes can become a political hot potato, political football? We had Action SA or one other party going to the IEC and the DA complaining that no, they're lying to us and telling Muslim voters that we're going to ban the adhan. Does that surprise you that this is becoming some sort of a political issue?
In the political world that we find ourselves today, in the political
Mm.
arena, nothing strange
Wow.
because they look for something that's
Right.
going to propel them. And that is why sometimes it's unfortunate. An issue is sometimes not that big, but because they complain, you won't believe the amount of media that's been contacting me before the mayor,
Mm.
Jordan Hill Lewis, before he made the announcement. The word was out, this one was saying, that one was saying. But Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, I must tell you also that we've also had an issue where we contacted the various different Muslim people within their parties. We mustn't also be completely non-aligned to the political parties. We work and we cooperate in that which will benefit, inshallah ta'ala. But where we had all of them, and alhamdulillah, voting in favor of a certain Islamic issue, where the MJC was involved in, and alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, our ta'awun must be across the spectrum, Malana Luqman.
Right.
We cannot, walk on this dunya with flaps on your eyes and you think that you're only going to take here and there. And so the world is not like that. The world is a big open space, and the deen of Islam is quite strong and capable to fit in all situations that we find
Alhamdulillah.
ourselves in as Muslimin.
Sheikh, I have a very interesting question, and I hope to end our discussion with this one. Now, you know that Islam is a growing religion, and Muslims are not only confined, for example, to those traditional areas, for example, Hanover Park, where a lot of Muslim people tend to live in Cape Town. Maybe Muslims have moved, for example, to those areas that used to be for the very affluent, and now they're big enough community there. They want to make the masjid. It's a bit far for them to travel to town to a nearest masjid. What advice do you give them who want to set up their community, who want to set up their masjid, so that they are not going to have any problems? For example, in a community that the majority are non-Muslim, for example, but this is a new Muslim community, but they have every right to establish themselves there too.
Yeah, Maulana Luqman, the word that you should be using is that the Muslims have become la-di-da.
Wow.
We've got another
Well,
level of
I,
English, you understand? We
I
speak
was not
American
expecting that.
and we speak British and whatever the case may be. But Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, totally understand your question. Yes, Malana Luqman, these things must be sorted out at the beginning before we build any masajid. We
Okay.
must know what is the bylaws that are in place, what is allowed, what is not allowed, and so on. And we must go and look at the zoning of a particular place and so on, because there are certain zonings that is going to prevent and prohibit any sounds that come off from a masjid or a church or whatever the case may be. We are prepared to take that up. And inshallah ta'ala, those where there is bylaws like that, we are going to take that up, provided obviously they come forward, so that we can get by. But your priority is to make sure that the zoning and where you're going to take the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that there is not going to be serious impediments and things, because then we're going to go into a fight. But where you have a difficulty, we have the politicians that are there, the Muslim politicians that are there, let them work for you. Let them do their job as the Muslim, part of the Muslim Ummah, and inshallah ta'ala we will overcome that. But yes, stay with the law. Please do not move out of the law that is present there.
Sheikh Riad, last parting advice, last few literally minutes left in the month of Ramadan. Please give us one last advice before we speak to you again, inshallah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Maulana Luqman and respected listeners, Allah Ta'ala says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ لَا تُحْصُوهَا. If you were to count the many favors that Allah Ta'ala has granted you, wallahi it's innumerable. We are going to have Eid tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. Many of us are going to have nice food on the table. There's going to be biryani, there's going to be curry, there's going to be braai, and so on. But there are people out there that are in need to be fed. There are people out there that have fasted the month of Ramadan and they don't know whether they are going to have food on the table. The Deen of Islam has made sure that we look after people like that. And that is that we must pay our zakatul fitr. We pay our zakatul fitr so that the person that might not have food on the table will feel, alhamdulillah, my brother, my sister have looked after me. So we make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant those people that are looking at tomorrow and not knowing where the food, that they are going to smile, because we fulfilled our duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our zakatul fitr. Where you see a poor person on the road, make sure that you give them. The day of Eid is the day of also doing good. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant that we are good examples, because we are in the succession game. Let us be good examples for the youth and for the children that are coming after us, so that they may have good examples to follow, salih examples to follow, and a community that they can be proud of. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us all min al-muttaqin, wa min al-muhsinin, wa min ibadi al-salihin. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا، ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إسرا كما حملت على الذين من قبلنا، ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به، واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا، أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم أصلح فساد قلوبنا، وأصلح ولاة أمورنا، وأصلح ذات بيننا، واصلحنا واصلح بنا واجعلنا صالحين مصلحين بمنك وكرمك يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم ارحمنا فإنك بنا راحم، ولا تعذبنا فأنت علينا قادر. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى. إن
Ameen.
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم
Ameen.
صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وأصحابه وبارك وسلم اللهم افتح لنا بالخير واختم لنا بالخير واجعل عواقب أمورنا بالخير بيدك
Ameen.
الخير والعافية إنك على كل شيء قدير
Ameen.
سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Ameen. Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh Riad Fataar.
بارك
As
الله فيك.
always, as always, it's a great pleasure to speak to you. We always learn so
الله
much, and it's
يخليك.
such a pleasure. May Allah reward you and give you a long life,
آمين
inshallah.
آمين يا رب.
Ameen.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Sheikh Riad Fataar there from the MJC in Cape Town. Excuse me, he's the second deputy president, talking to us about the issue of the adhan and the noise pollution issue. And the city of Cape Town has made it very, very clear that that does not apply to a noise pollution complaint anymore, because it's a place of worship. And if it's in the appropriate zoning, that complaint will not hold water anymore. But more importantly as well, Sheikh Riyad letting us go with some beautiful du'as and nasiha as we approach the iftar time right here in South Africa. Our last fast for the month of Ramadan, the 30th of Ramadan, and as we look forward to the 1st of Shawwal, which will be in a few minutes from now. Stay tuned.